back to the...
We'll open up the workshop.
Okay. All right, that's my favorite topic. So agenda, which we're going to go back over what we talked about on April 14th. Glenn, can you hear me over there?
Glenn, can you hear her?
Yeah. I'd appreciate it if you could move closer. Thank you. I don't really want to yell. I'm not that good at it. Not for one reason.
Because I matter, you don't.
Yeah. All right, Glenn, you get to hear me the best. Everybody else, let me know. All right. So we'll start with the summary of April 14th, and then I'll talk about a little bit planning and zoning. Most of you were here and kind of heard what we just talked about. So I'll just go back over that. Licenses overview, retail registrations, compliance checks, and then where our local ordinance is at right now in the next steps. So on April 14th, you guys, my understanding is you guys want to keep your retail registration authority. You don't want to delegate that to the county. You are looking at fees, $500 for an initial one, $1,000 for any annual renewals. And then for the hours of operation, you're looking at 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. the following day, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. for some days. And then we suggested a case-by-case review for zoning buffers. And we didn't, my notes say we didn't land on a final for retail registration specifically because that law does have products that are the ones. Is everything I have up here is different? No? So planning and zoning, I talked to them about zoning buffers and things like that. They were kind of in the same boat. They want to see case-by-case basis review. We talked about the size of the community, where some of those zoning districts bump up against each other. And so I'm going to go back to the attorney and talk to him about that. I do have a little bit of concerns about zoning, not having it set in stone. Sometimes this can come back on the legality of that. And so I'm just doing our due diligence there before we put that in the ordinance.
I think it should be a set number of some sort, so it's fair and equal across the board.
Set number in terms
As
of...
far as just some of the zoning, planning and zoning things. That'd be my input.
Do you have a
I mean, if
specific...
it's 200 feet, or if it's 500 feet, or 300 feet, you know, we'd have to measure some stuff out, and then how is that measured? Is it direct line of sight? Is it down a sidewalk? Is it, you know, how would that measurement work? I'm not sure how that varies.
Well, we would go back to our zoning. They recommend going back to how your zoning ordinance already works. So for instance, somebody said it's edge of line, or like the edge of the property, not center. Is that correct? For whenever you're doing buffers and things. We'll look back and see what our standard is.
Technically, I just click on the parcel. I click on the parcel wherever that thing puts it for me to do that 350 radius or whatever. I don't know if it's on the edge. I'd have to call Bull Mink to see.
Well, I'm just saying that
I'm talking about like the GIS, like when you actually put a buffer in, how did you do your buffer? When you
I did center. I did the center of the property.
see in my GIS, you click on the parcel, it highlights the whole parcel where it's determining where it's coming from. I'm not really sure.
But
I'm guessing center.
It was a perfect circle. It's perfect center. Like, the circle is probably the center of the parcel. But we should look at
Right.
zoning ordinance.
The beacon doesn't from the property line.
right.
The property line, like on the south property line, the north property line.
That's
Entire property.
what I'm saying, is it, you know, if we're taking the school, for instance, is it the front edge property line of that, and then how many feet to whatever other property line? Is it in a
Like when
direct line, or is it down a street and across? or-
When I normally do them, I do them all the time for things that work, and when I do them, we do them from the property line, so Beacon will do it for you. I mean, it's right in Beacon, but you can do it in a bunch of different softwares, but basically click on the parcel, run a 350-foot buffer, and it basically outlines the parcel 350 feet.
But I'm
So-
guessing it's going from center point. Because
No.
it's not going from the actual edge.
No, it goes from the edge, because if it's an oblong parcel, it draws a,
Oblong
Yeah.
circle.
yeah, so especially on bigger parcels, yeah.
Okay.
But in some specific instances, for instance, noise variances, if there's a point of sound or a point, like a stage being set up or something, then I'll do a circle from the location of that stage. But normally it's like for law enforcement, for restraining orders, or for you know,
Well,
people on lists,
my
in their own
biggest
schools, they usually have to do it from the whole
It's
property.
not gonna say by the line or by the middle or whatever.
It does measurement, all lot here measurements we take from the lot line.
Yep. Yeah, you can do it right in Beacon.
And like I said, I do it in my in the GIS, so, but I'm clicking on the parcel and it's just doing it.
like we discussed in the planning and zoning here at board for planning and zoning is that if we are gonna have it where commercial 1 and commercial 2, just down by the bird cage, we need to have a set. Because I'd hate to have somebody buy the bird cage and then have a shop open up there, and now they're right next to the multifamily housing.
I mean, I think realistically, if you did 200 feet, it's probably sufficient.
Yeah. Well, because
It's a lot.
what is the liquor store?
Quarters of a lot.
But what's it, you know, there's a daycare right next to the Main Street block, you know, like Matt said, is it down the street or is it at the complex?
I'd say, if you surround the parcel by 200 feet,
Yeah, that's what I would say.
or it wouldn't even have to be 200, as long as you're just trying to eliminate things from being right next to one another.
And it gives an equal
Right.
openness to basically everybody, so it can't be profiled and
I mean,
one person doesn't like somebody else because of this or that.
in most situations, 100 to 200 feet would get you 3, 4, 5 houses down. If you're gonna keep it on, I don't know what your plan is for residential or not. You know, if you're gonna keep it all to residential and,
In terms of selling.
well, in terms of, you know,
Long license.
just in terms of keeping it away from specifically adjacent to residential, I mean, 100 feet would basically eliminate all properties across the street from commercial properties.
Yeah,
The other thing is I don't, you know,
like these ones.
my guess is it's not gonna be as big an issue as you're gonna, if they're gonna actually, by the time they get legislated, get regulated from the state, it's not like you're gonna have a bunch of shady people trying to operate these businesses. It's gonna be pretty, straightforward and pretty highly regulated, would be my
Well,
guess.
I don't think that's the business itself, I don't think is the problem. It's the clientele maybe coming in there that hang outside and.
Yeah, but I don't, there's gonna be enough of them where it's not like you're gonna get anybody that's not already in town.
Well, yeah, no, I understand that, but I'm just saying, you know, the likelihood of anything, because I don't know, are they still a cash business still, or are they allowing, I mean, have they changed to more of a banking business? I know for the longest time, like Colorado was pure cash. They only dealt with cash.
Yeah, I don't know that I've seen anything about that.
So it's a regulation of, I don't know where that makes it.
Yeah.
Well, it's the FDIC is where it is, and that's why they haven't in Colorado is,
May not be able to do that on the phone.
you know, that's more of my concern is, you know, whether that would draw people that want to do the various things,
Right.
because it's all cash business. I just know that Colorado, it was all cash because FDIC said the federal government could come in and still seize the accounts.
I think they're trying to change that at the federal level right now, trying to allow banking, but at the state level, I'm pretty sure that there's credit unions and stuff that are allowing
Oh,
businesses.
It's a banking.
You know,
The regulation, okay. I'll look into that more too, see if I get more information on.
I mean, are there even any examples of like what startup cost is for a normal cannabis business to get licensed in the state of, I mean, the investment's probably pretty big.
I haven't seen that. I know they have grants for people. I didn't know that our state office is on, looking up grants for people to doctors and that. Can Grow Farmer grants. There's another one too. To try to spur some of that. like this board's leaning more towards set distances, sounds like 100, 200 feet, differing for parks versus schools, because these are the areas in which we can put zoning buffers in place.
I think even if you set it at 200 feet, it's going to keep adjacent properties from the school and from, commercial daycares from having that type of business.
So do you think with the non-specified stuff then, are those towns gonna have problems with their attorneys then, or what?
I bet Mall probably has a zoning, put it in their zoning ordinance.
Okay.
I would love to.
They did.
Yeah, I was like, their cannabis ordinance is long enough. So I didn't know that. Yeah. So do you know what their buffers are? I know Scandia doesn't, but I also couldn't find their zoning ordinance online, so they may have also put it in somewhere else.
Yeah, I
1,500. They just got,
They just did the max.
they just did the max.
Okay. And they're only letting 2 retail registrations as well.
Right, and they have one with interest is what the New England Journal said the other day.
And do you know if that is for both low dose and high dose?
Specifically high dose. I talked to John, the person that wrote it. He said that the low dose wasn't even a consideration because his understanding is all going to be regulated by a different mechanism here in the near future.
So what I, oh yeah, I'll just go right here. So the lower potency hemp edible retailers with medical cannabis combination business cannot be capped.
Right.
At retail registration, but a lot of others, the amount of ordinance they're giving out does specify low dose hemp and does allow you to regulate them separately. So I mean, I would still recommend that we do at this point rather than do a later ordinance. If the board feels they don't want to talk about that now, we don't have to, but. Yeah, and so these are the ones, the highlighted in black are the ones that are retailers. The number next to them is how many retail operations they can have. All of them can only have 1 in a city though, one location. So micro businesses can only have 1 anywhere, medical can have 3, 1 in the city, retailers can have 5. And then medical cannabis combination, that is a capped license in the state. So I would be concerned about how many of those there's going to be. Yeah. And then, this is what we got earlier, about seeking retail endorsement. They have to have a valid license, pre-approval by OCM, and then a registration fee to us at that time. And I also wrote in here, they talked about what our process is going to be if we do limit them. Are we doing a first come, first served? Are we doing a rolling approval? And these are what the communities are doing based on my reading of the ordinances. Yes. Do we have additional thoughts? So low dose versus high dose. We can't regulate the low dose and we didn't want to. Do we want to do a limit of 1 for high dose or an expanded limit in the community for retail registrations?
My thoughts is limited. Then I would say first come, first served.
Okay.
I think some of that'll be ironed out once you set the zoning part, because there's only going to be so many places that
Correct. Yeah.
you could
I mean,
have it.
if you don't have a registration limit, though, I mean, you could conceivably have every one of those. You could start getting one too.
I would say between zoning and the fact that the population would probably not support more than 1 or 2.
I would agree.
I don't necessarily think that it's going to be an issue, but if you want to put it in writing that choose the limit, I think that's fine.
I want at least 2. I want at least competition. Other than that, that's where my preference is like. So. Sure. All right.
Another thing is, if for for some odd reason, they end up with 5 people applying for this. Nothing says we can't rebroach it and see what's going on with the market. If it's really something that doesn't bring that much business to town,
Yeah.
and we become a hotbed of cannabis sales, maybe we should have some other things going on in town, I don't know.
I suspect your license fees might, because we've got the max license fees too, so. I don't think we'll get to be a hotbed. Okay, compliance checks, this is more conversation with you and you about our staffing for it and how we're going to handle those. Local governments must conduct compliance checks for cannabis and hemp businesses. I know Chris and I talked about normally that's like the sheriff's office doing that for alcohol. So we would need
Cigarettes.
for cigarettes, thank you.
Well, it's kind of a combination, but before we can even put this in the ordinance, we have to have a conversation.
Correct.
In regards to who actually regulates it.
And so, I just wanted to note that and then have further conversations with people we need to about that. Any other discussion that needs to be had? I talked about everything I wanted to talk about with you guys. I can show you where the model ordinance is at now. It's kind of scattered. I just wanted to see, I felt like we were rushing it at the last discussion, and so Chris and I want to make sure you guys had enough time to discuss, what we needed to about this.
I think it's gonna be a lot like anything else, where it's gonna be pretty highly regulated to start it and slowly become a little more mainstream.
And all the low-dose, all the places that are selling low-dose right now will end up having to get a license. That license process will happen in fall, and so then they'll start getting regulated with the rest of the licenses under OCM. They got moved out from under whatever state agency they are under now, under the OCM.
So let's go back to, you're saying that the low dose just goes through the state then? They don't have to go through the city or
Or
anything
still
like
go
that?
for retail registrations. Yep.
We are only dealing with the high dose.
We can only limit the high dose, but the process they will still go through.
But are we involved in a low dose license too?
It'll be similar to tobacco license.
So then we are going to have to add that somewhere too, in regards to an application and a procedure on that too.
Is there a renewal fee for tobacco every year too then? Okay.
Yeah, and so this talks about here the process for low potency hemp edible. They go through the OCM license process, vetted, site inspection, then they alert us about license being issued when they seek their local retail registration, if they are trying to be a retail seller. And then we would approve them through our means, however we do a retail registration, but they can't be limited. That's what that says. And then they would pay the registration fee just like any other retail business under this.
What did they say the low dose was considered that they can have?
How much it is.
I think it's something like 5, at least it was 5 milligrams per serving and 50 milligrams per package.
And that's what that giggly stuff falls under them?
0.3% hemp-derived THC, 5 milligrams, maximum 50 per package. Beverages, 5 milligrams. So this is some of the records we need in our offices, we can have them. Okay. So then going forward, we've got the May 12th.
So is the low dose registration fee gonna be the same price as the high dose?
You can change that if you want. Right now, you told me that you want them to be the same.
Let's say the high dose be higher, no?
Oh, yeah, that high.
Those are pretty high, they're pretty steep fees.
I would say so too, if we're trying to promote
I mean, what do we got, $25 on a cigarette license, or $40 on a cigarette license? So we gotta put this in perspective.
Yeah, so it's an off-sale alcohol license.
We don't have enough.
But you don't have an,
We don't have an
I suppose
opt-out.
not because of 3-2 law, nobody's carrying, nobody
Yeah.
else are carrying that.
So right now, what we have, and Heather helped me out with our liquor license.
We have the wine and we have the full and beer,
So we have your brewer's license, which is
Which is
plus handling.
how much?
I think theirs is still $12.40. I can't remember off.
All right, I'll get you all,
Get some comparables. and-
I'll get you the license fees, but I think that we can't do 500 and 1,000 in regards to the low dose.
Yeah,
I feel it's a
No,
little.
I'd say for the high dose, have it at the max, but for the low dose, lower fee.
Yes, I don't think the 5 or the 1,000 is out of line in regards to what our current liquor license is, but I think the low dose has to be probably a little bit different.
I could see like 100, 200 or something like that.
What is our tobacco one?
40,
I think it needs to be more than that.
so.
I was checking to see if you still did the compliance checks, because that would be step, I do compliance checks potentially, and so before, we should come back to the board, once we know what that goes. Any other pieces with that?
The compliance checks as far as the application,
Compliance checks are,
it all defaults back to the city, and then OMC comes down and says yea or nay.
yes,
That's how.
but there's age verification.
Right, there's all kinds of.
So that'd be underneath the police department doing the compliance checks.
Yeah.
What is the requirement? Are they required to like do, like what we have for liquor license? Do they have to present like their insurance
They're gonna have- You
information,
have to present pretty much everything to the
everything?
city. The city has to approve the request if they comply, and then OMC comes down to do an inspection.
Yeah, so they have some pretty steep compliance checks in place originally, the original law, and then they changed it this year. My understanding right now is just age verification, but if there's one, that we be aware of, we'll find that out. Yeah, so right now, we don't do age verification checks for anything else locally, that's done at the county level. Correct.
Say that again?
Like for tobacco or liquor, we don't do any age verification.
We're required to.
Okay. Alright. So,
Alright. So we'll go back to talking about how everybody feels about already going to public hearing on May 12th. And May 12th would be a public hearing with a draft ordinance for first reading. Is that what you're wanting to do?
I think that's where I'm at. It seems like you guys are pretty solid where you want to be. And so I would do that. I would want to bring it back to planning and zoning, what we talked about here, just because of differing. And
Well,
to make sure that you
you
guys.
were gonna set the fees for all of it through fee schedule anyway, weren't you?
Yes, yeah. So the fee fees will say review.
So that doesn't necessarily have to be part of the
Correct.
ordinance reading.
No, you just have to get the basics.
Right.
That's what the ordinance is, it's just the basics.
I don't think there's anything that's gonna be a huge point of contention on what we're talking about, other than stamping down that number, I guess, whatever we want it to be. As far as the zoning number goes.
And it'd be a draft of it, so we can always change that zoning number. I can put in more, show you guys some more information, see if there's any concerns. We can change it.
And really honestly, we don't even have to do first reading that night. We can for public hearing for basically the public to come in and voice their opinion. And we can see where that goes and do the first reading the next council meeting too.
I also can't be at the next, on May 12th, so I need to talk to you.
On May 12th, you can't be
I
here?
can't be here. I have to be at a different city council meeting.
Okay.
So, if we're doing public comment or public feedback, I'd probably watch the recording then, to see what I need to know. So it's more for you guys. I can be ready with the draft ordinance by May 12th though.
We're just gonna play it by ear.
So Glenn just said he wanted, whether we should just do this more like a public comment, public forum, get the public's comments before we do the first draft reading.
That's fine.
So we'll do that. Sounds like the board. Okay, so draft ordinance will be read at the end of the month, May 27th. And then public comment. So I will get promotional things out there for people to know that we're discussing this. So you're not sitting in a room alone, but maybe it's better if you are. Okay. And then Chris, so I'm going to have several staff discussions, like I said, about the compliance checks, some of the things with the procedurals later, so we know and figuring out who's responding to some of these zoning certificates and the retail registrations. Yeah. Thanks for your time on this. I know it's not fun and none of us want to do it, but I appreciate it.
Well, it sounds like you and Matt have done a lot more research on this.
I sounds like Matt has done a lot of research than I.
I didn't know any of it, so I'm lost, so I just
I appreciate
printed
it.
off the guide and read it in my free time.
Oh. That would be my first choice for my free time. You're better.
It wasn't my choice, it was what I thought was the right thing to do.
Thank you.
Chris, do you have anything else for workshop?
Other than, actually, I was saying, I don't know if you flipped the recorder on, but just the two items that need to, no, before when I was saying
Oh,
two
no.
added items to the agenda tonight in regards to the compost address and the utility easement.
What would the address be for the compost?
Compost address would be 301 Joy Avenue Southwest, and that is the same address that the light plan is currently using. But I have to do that for insurance reasons.
Okay.
And then, now I
Just the utility easement?
the utility easement that I didn't get anything for.
Do you need to address all six yet too, or just fall under a different address for insurance?
I have that all.
Do I have an address for that?
Yep, so we should get rid of an address, because that property had two addresses, so if we combine everything, which we are, but I have to wait a whole year, because then it'll be a full parcel. So the recycling shed was one parcel, and then like that little house was another parcel, and so we're gonna combine it all as one, and then we'll have that one address. And I think it's like 125 or something, First Street or something.
Do you have an update on that project as, once we get paid?
And Wade was gonna come tonight or whatever, but then he had texted me and asked if it was okay that he stayed home, because I knew you were gonna ask.
Well, I can text Wade.
Please,
Yeah, I think
because,
it looked like this morning they were getting the final grade
Yeah.
for asphalt.
but Wade was gonna come tonight, so he could give an update on everything.
But he's keeping a close eye on it.
So,
Wade is, yeah,
He probably wants to get that pump up and running.
before the next 5 million projects start. So. Wednesday, we're gonna have a golf commission meeting at 5:30. Other than that, I don't, oh, and then next Monday is the board of
Equalization and appeal.
yeah, appeals and equalization. Currently, we have 3 of you that are trained. So the only ones that are not trained right now are Andy and Matt. So going into next year, maybe that's something that we gotta look at, is getting you guys trained.
that's just an online thing, right?
Yeah.
Like half hour, isn't it?
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I don't know, this is pretty good here.
What was that?
I said that class will be the best half hour of his life.
Other than that, nothing else for the workshop agenda.
Make a motion to close the workshop.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried.